Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Finland and welcome to Tampere. My name is Ulla Rohunen and I am the Museum Director of the Finnish Labour Museum WERSTAS and the Lenin Museum. You are very welcome to open the exhibition Kaleidoscope, Children of the Cold War. This exhibition has been made in collaboration with the Werstas and the University of Tampere Reconnect, Recollect project. And here with me is researcher Nelly Piatto-Eva.
Hi.
In the slideshow at the beginning, you saw some photos about the project, entire project, and also from Werstas and from Lenin Museum. I will tell you a few words about our museums. The Finnish Labour Museum WERSTAS is museum in Tampere. The museum is specialized in social history as well as recording and researching, exhibiting history of work and workers. Our mission is fair history and admission to Werstas is always free. The Lenin Museum is part of our organization and it's also located in Tampere. It is probably the only remaining Lenin Museum in the Western Europe. Despite its name, it tells more about the relationship between Finland and Soviet Union than the Lenin as a person. We have collaborated with the researchers Susa Millet and Nelly Piatto-Eva in previous exhibition at the Lenin Museum, and this exhibition we are now opening is continuing this collaboration. Exhibition Kaleidoscope, Children of the Cold War, tells about memories, childhood, and everyday life in both sides of Iron Curtain. Through this exhibition, the official story of the Lenin Museum on the relations between Finland and the Soviet Union gets a different and more humane perspective. The memories collected in the Reconnect, Recollect project are an impressive and touching and will have a visual form in this exhibition. We are really pleased to have such a polyphonic and special exhibition here at Werstas. I was asked to maybe share some of my own childhood memories. When reading memories in this exhibition, they also reminded me of my own childhood. I was born in 1974, and as a school girl, I lived in the small town in the eastern Finland near Soviet border. I often traveled to Viborg, which was nearest town in Soviet side, or the Leningrad with my family. We have some family friends living there. Usually we traveled by bus. And crossing the border was always very exciting, almost scary experience. Customs officers were very angry, and often my father wanted to take something to the other side, which was not allowed to take there. Going to the Soviet side, it was usually currency or some kind of customer goods he wanted to sell there. And when coming back to Finland, it was usually cheap alcohol. Once the border was crossed, everyone would sigh with relief in the bus. I sat in the bus and looked out the window, the landscape, the bushes and the grass next to the road. And nature looked upon differently in the Soviet side, and I didn't know why. This was my memory, and during the opening tonight, we will hear even more memories.
Hello, my name is Camila Rosa Ribeiro,
and I will read a text written by the Finnish writer and artist Rosa Liksom for the opening of the exhibition. Memories of the Cold War. The concept of the Cold War was invented after the Second World War in the United States. It meant the situation of the Second World War in which the world was divided. There was the Socialist East and the Capitalist West. The Socialist East was an undemocratic coalition that was directed in an authoritarian way, in which the human rights were not recognized. In the West, there was a democracy that was based on the power of money and capitalistic economic system based on imperialism. In other words, exploitation. Between those two, an iron curtain was seen from the West. The Wall of Berlin, that was built in one night in 1961, made the Iron Curtain very concrete thing. Both blocs had nuclear weapons and could destroy the whole world in one moment, with one push of a button. In Lapland, there were 220,000 German soldiers during the Second World War, as Finland fought with the German Nazis against the Soviet Union. The war diminished the number of the boys and men in my home village. Most of the men that came back from the war were mentally disturbed and cured their traumas with alcohol. When I was born in 1958, only 13 years have passed after the war. It was present at home and in our village every single day. People talked about the war, and they were afraid of the war every single day. The war had left an atmosphere of panic, anxiety, and stress hovering above our village. I grew up in that atmosphere, and I consider it normal. In the end of 1968, I was 10. The tanks of the Soviet Union moved towards Czechoslovakia. I remember clearly as the householder next door came in and asked my father whether we should start packing our stuff and cattle to go to Sweden. That was what people had done in 1944 when the Germans' war in Lapland started. The people fled from the village with their cattle over the Tornio River to Sweden because of the war. The atmosphere at our home was gloomy. My father said, "Let's see. Maybe the Soviet Union won't invade Finland. Maybe Czechoslovakia will be enough." We followed the situation of Czechoslovakia on the radio, and the adults were really desperate, and the atmosphere was really anxious. Maybe the Third World War would start, and the Soviet Union would invade Finland. People talked about the Hungarian Revolution that had happened a couple of years before I was born, and the Cuban crisis, and how people have also been afraid of the war then, but we have escaped from it. Maybe this time we wouldn't. During the worst anxiety, I ran into the woods that started right behind our home. I just ran deeper and deeper into the woods and cried. I crawled up under an old spruce and prayed all the spirits of the world to save us from the war. The forest calmed me down, and I went back home. The horrors of the past war and the atmosphere of panic of the Cold War made me hate war. I became an activist of peace movement as a pre-adolescent. I participated in the movement against the Vietnam War, and I participated in many different ways in the fight against the Cold War and nuclear weapons. The Cold War is now a memory of the past, but now we are in the middle of a new kind of war. The state of war in the values, in the culture, in the environment, in the economy, in the politics, in sports, has led us into a situation in which the humankind is committing a suicide. As an ingenious species, we have managed to destroy our living conditions so that we are taking the whole planet into the way of destruction. As a greedy an efficient species. Homo sapiens destroys first other species, the nature, and at the same time itself. We can just hope that in the future, when Homo sapiens will not exist anymore, new life will grow from the depths of the planet, and nature will conquer the world that we have destroyed.
Thank you. And now we will hear some more memories. Katrin is prepared to read us a memory.
Okay, hello everybody. So here's a memory. Going home. We're going home. Oma, Opa, here we come. Well, actually, home is this other town, not Oma and Opa's place. It's where they moved to when she was 5 years old, just after her brother had been born. Her parents always talked about the house they had moved to as their real home. But deep down, she felt that Mum and Dad's hearts were elsewhere, in the villages and homes where they grew up. Mum rang Oma regularly, and family visits there and back were their main way of socializing, as Mum had few, well, actually no real friends in their new hometown. In fact, Mum had very few friends, period, but that was something the little girl did not find strange at the time. In any case, the little girl loved visiting Oma and Opa. They had a house with a large garden where she could roam freely with her cousin. Together, they played lots of hide and seek, or they made up home in the old garden hut. Going to Oma and Opa's was always a special occasion, something she looked forward to greatly, though she also missed her mom, dad, and brothers sorely when she was left there alone. Her parents actually rarely stayed there for more than 2 or 3 days, so usually they would all go together and she would then be left at the grandparents for 1 or 2 weeks. Her parents then came back to pick her up, or her grandparents did the journey. Traveling by car was something she always enjoyed, but the journey to Oma and Opa's was the longest they ever did, nearly an hour, and so it gave her the most time to tuck herself into the corner on the back seat, look out of the window, daydream, and disappear into her own imaginary world. Unless Mum was upset, which happened a lot. In that case, her shouting at Dad or crying or saying mean things to all of them made the journey intolerable. Mum always got especially tense before long journeys. She would always be the last to get in the car and then spend the next few minutes going through all the things they should have turned off and packed before leaving. One of the most important things to take were the Passierscheine, permits to allow people to enter the cordoned-off border zone in which her grandparents' villages were located. At 5 or 6 years old, the little girl did not understand about the border zone, but she quickly learned that the Passierscheine were a great source of stress to her parents, and that without them, you could not go and see Oma and Opa. She also knew that after a lovely car journey through the Thuringian countryside, which more often than not was interrupted for an ice cream at the best bakery serving ice cream in the area, they would get to a roadblock that could only be passed with a Passierschein. The roadblock was guarded and a barrier blocked the way. There were armed police officers stationed in a little bungalow. Getting close to the barrier, her parents always got nervous. There was a great commotion as they looked for the papers, examined them closely once more to make sure that they had the right stamp and date on them. They stopped the car in front of the barrier and looked towards the hut. How long would it be this time before the armed officer took it upon himself to come outside and check the papers? How long would he take after collecting them? He used to take a long, hard look into the back of the car too, making a stern face, whilst seemingly counting the number of children in the back. The boot also had to be opened, probably to check whether anybody was being hidden in there. The armed officer always seemed to take forever after taking the papers back into the bungalow. When he came out again, the atmosphere in the car was tense. Dad pulled down the window and took a deep breath. The officer gave them one last stern look, then handed over the papers. This was not always the case. Once, the papers were out of date and the new papers had not arrived early enough, so her parents were turned back to only return after they had received the new papers. Today, however, all was good. They headed off once the barrier was lifted, not taking the right turn to her dad's village, but going straight ahead to Mum's village. The final highlight of the journey awaited them. The bumpy tarmacked road built under Hitler and now serving few motorists, but being repurposed into a fun fair ride of sorts as they jumped into the air at the 3 bumps that they always waited for. Is it coming up now? No. Maybe after the next turning? No. Must be after the bridge. Ooh, yes, look, there they are. Come on now, Daddy, push the gas pedal. Let's jump as high as we can. Bump.
Thank you, Catherine. And then we will hear another memory read by Stephanie Weiss.
Hello, everyone. They took a trip from Nuremberg in Germany, where they were living, to Czechoslovakia for 3 days or so. It must have been 1977 or 1978. By that time, they had already lived in Mexico for a while. That year, they went back to Germany because her grandmother was ill. She recalls that because she remembers speaking Spanish with her brother in the hotel room. Her parents had great expectations for that trip. But when they arrived, everything looked gray and it was rainy. She remembers that her parents felt scared by the agents in the streets, at the hotel, and so on. The feeling that her parents transmit to the children was that they felt observed, not free and regulated. She also remembers a waiter who was not even a real waiter and was very hostile. But she gained this impression from her parents. They went to a circus and she got to ride a hippopotamus with her brother. It was fantastic. When she went back after crossing the border into Germany, her brother opened the car window and said in German, "Endlich kommt die frische Luft rein." Finally, the fresh air comes in. She can still hear it. The German words sounding very harsh. But her brother has always been very sincere. He spoke in the face of oppression. He expressed the feelings their parents had. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now our researchers, Nelly Piatto-Eva, Susan Millet from the Tampere University and Iveta Silova from the Arizona State University.
Hello, everyone. I can see almost 140 participants there above the panel. It's such a great evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining, dear project participants, colleagues, students, families, friends, and esteemed guests. Thank you for celebrating with us this wonderful collaboration between the Werstas Museum, our research team, Nelly Piatto-Eva, Iveta Silova, and myself, Susan Millet, and Tampere University. We wish to express our sincere thanks to all collaborators on this exhibition, the Kone Foundation for the generous funding. It has enabled us to bring to fruition our research and the various artistic and museum initiatives that sprouted from it during these past 2 years. We have an animation about a ghost train from Berlin. We have a theatre production that was performed in Budapest. And now we open the Kaleidoscope exhibition here in Tampere. At the center of this exhibition are 250 memories shared within small collectives, 77 artists, researcher participants of our project from 6 continents, 36 countries, some of whom join us today, like Katrin or Stephanie, who read the memories. You might wonder why such personal views as childhood memories are interesting for us as researchers. What can we possibly learn from the exploration of the past era of Cold War through memories of children's everyday life? Memories reveal children's experiences of major political events of the Cold War. They tell about children's everyday life and their interpretations of the world. The exhibition makes these accounts resonate with the experiences of today's generation. Memories also reveal how differently children experience the world to adults. The exhibition is a reminder to hear and engage better with children. Each section of the exhibition mirrors their intention, this intention by presenting the materials to adults on the top and for children on the bottom, the lower part. Reflecting on the daily life of the last Soviet generation, Alexei Yurchak points to the paradox of late socialist societies. He says, everything was for forever until it was no more. Everything was for forever until it was no more. A belief in an infinite future, while at the same time being aware of the arriving change. The ambivalence of this paradox resonates with major events today, the climate change, the COVID-19 epidemic. While in the public there is a general understanding of the looming climate disaster, the possibility of new virus, we seem to believe that we can return to normal and our lives will just go on forever. What we see in memories is the crumbling of one modernity, the socialist system. And what we see now is the crumbling, perhaps another system, the capitalist one. Are we prepared for what comes after?
Iveta, you can go on now.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to see so many friends and colleagues here with us today together. This museum exhibition and the research project that inspired it has very deeply personal beginnings. It started as our response to reading popular and academic literature about socialist childhood and schooling, which was published on both sides of the Iron Curtain, but did not make much sense to the three of us who grew up in different parts of the former Soviet and socialist region. Zsuzsa grew up in Hungary, Nelly grew up in Russia, and I grew up in Latvia. Scholars on the eastern side of the Iron Curtain often wrote about socialist childhood in terms of children serving as icons of the revolution or model socialist citizens building socialist futures. On the other side of the Iron Curtain in the West, childhood under state socialism was very often discussed in terms of oppression and authoritarianism. But these accounts did not make much sense to us because as children growing up in the socialist countries, we experienced life so differently. Our childhoods were full of paradoxes, from joy and alienation to dullness associated with being a socialist child, and much more. You may have noticed some of these paradoxes in the memory stories shared earlier by Stephanie and Catherine. For example, the Iron Curtain dividing the East and the West was not as impenetrable as it may have seemed. Children crossed borders to see their relatives and friends, and these crossings were sometimes scary and sometimes exciting, and often they were simply very long or too bumpy. So these crossings often opened entries into whole new worlds where even the air smelled differently, but sometimes they led to very familiar places, especially when these journeys led to grandparents' homes across the borders. So what emerged from our initial informal conversations was that living socialism often meant something quite different compared to the official interpretations on either side of the Iron Curtain. We therefore decided to explore this further, inviting more colleagues, academics, and artists to join us. So in this research project, we acted as our own biographers and began to give texture and color to our lived experiences, weave together stories and speaking against and sometimes in parallel to the official versions of a single history. Our collective memories have illuminating effects, revealing so many stories which may have not been noticed before, or the stories that may have been erased in official histories. They bring into focus the multitude of inconsistent, sometimes contradictory, but always fascinating narratives about childhood, about socialism, and about post-socialism.
Thanks, Iveta. And it's so nice to be here in the museum and also with wonderful friends and colleagues. It's a really special occasion for the whole team. So, as Iveta was saying, the three of us experienced almost magical and unexpected connecting quality of memories when we first started sharing our own childhood stories, personal photographs, and objects to trouble official histories of socialism. So inspired by this experience, this magical quality of memory sharing, our core ambition and hope for the project became to explore how memories could bring together more people who were disconnected by the historical Cold War divides between the East and the West, or people of different generations, the one who were born during socialism and the one who were born after. But also people who are now experiencing new kinds of divides, either borders that are built between countries or divides that arise because of the economic or political inequalities, extreme thinking, migration, xenophobic attitudes. So how is it that we can bring memories and enable memories to kind of establish dialogues between people? That was the question that we were wondering about. The method of collective biography asks to share personal memory in as rich a detail as possible, recalling not only the actors, events, or actions from that experience, but also emotions, atmospheres, smells, touches, so that each story could become imaginable within the minds and bodies of its listeners. So told in this way, the rich texture of memory stories offers multiple threads that might create a connection among listeners across dissimilar locations or times. So now, hearing Catherine's or Stephanie's memories, you might remember your own favorite ice cream or feel a fresh air blowing into your head when you were a child traveling to see your own family. So perhaps counterintuitively, it is the intimate nature of memories that helps them speak and connect across larger publics, such as museum visitors that we are expecting to come here tomorrow. Sharing memories has a domino effect. We hear one, we tell one. We also, through memories, get a glimpse of the intergenerational nature of childhoods through stories featuring family gatherings, celebrations, travel. These memories remind us of the relational nature of growing up and life itself. After the collapse of the socialist project, older generations didn't talk about their past. They were silent about it. So our collaboration with the museum really wants to bring these different generations together, to create a space for generations to talk about their recent or more distant pasts and to find connecting points through sharing memories.
And now we will have a little peek of our exhibition, and we will see video about the construction of this exhibition and also tour on the exhibition.
Thank you. It was a beautiful day, warm and sunny. His mom picked them up from kindergarten. First, they had to go to the market to buy some First, they had to go to the market to buy some groceries, and then home, where his sister was waiting for them. She had already gotten back from school. However, the second they left the grocery store, they heard sirens, the ones that indicated they were under air attack.
Next, we will have Rosa Liksom and Miia Collanus telling us a bit more about the collaboration with Tampere University in this exhibition.
As we try to make connections, we also try to make more and more connection with students. Therefore, we enlisted a few bachelor thesis students to work with us on the design and development of the exhibition. And also we turned to craft study students who help us to actually make this possible and to create some parts of the exhibition. So thank you very much for the thesis students and also the other students. And I'm giving you now Miia Collanus, the craft teacher from the University of Tampere.
Thank you, Rosa. Dear everyone, my name is Miia Collanus, and as Rosa said, I'm teaching crafts for students in early childhood education and classroom teacher education in University of Tampere. My student designed and made 2 interactive areas for children into this exhibition. I will shortly describe you what we've done with the students and how this university course links with the crafts education in Finnish school system. In Finnish school system, crafts is a subject of its own. In all levels of education, the teaching is project-based and child-driven. The teacher is not supposed to offer fixed ideas of what a child is supposed to make, but create problem spaces for children to explore and apply as sources of inspiration in their own crafts projects. Importantly, the teaching should also involve both individual and collaborative processes. The aim of education, therefore, is to develop also social skills and teach creative problem solving, and not only to give knowledge about materials and tools. This craft design course I taught followed these principles of craft education. The 14 students were organized into 2 design teams, whose task was to create 2 interactive areas for children to this exhibition. Both teams had a researcher mentoring them, Susa and Nelly. In addition, we made close collaboration with Kati Lehtinen, the visual designer of Werstas Museum. Like in schools, this process involved developing key design ideas, producing visual and technical plans, and finally make the objects. Thank you. The materialities team chose the space as their key design idea. The final area consists of moonwalk, which you saw on the video, made out of plastic foam, and magnetic wall with planets that were made from various recycled materials, usually categorized as trash. The Spaces and Atmospheres team used the Reconnect mold story as a source of inspiration. The key idea was to make a forest environment from the child's perspective and provide lots of textures a child to explore, as you saw also in the video. This project was very unique learning experience for both me and the students, and I want to thank my students for their resilience and creativity throughout this project. And thank you for Susa and Nelly of this opportunity and Werstas with a very good collaboration. And hello, Kati, if you are there.
Hi. Thanks, everyone. Now we are heading to the end of our opening ceremony, and at last we have an artwork. Artist and researcher Raisa will present her artwork 63 Windows.
Thank you, Ulla. I started to work for this project last October, and I'm working as a senior researcher. I'm an artist, but I'm also doing more traditional academic research in this project. And also in this exhibition, I have taken part of writing the script or editing the script with Nelly, and it has been really interesting. Originally, I thought that I'm not involved with an exhibition, but luckily I've been able to take part of this project as well. And but today I will present you my artwork, as Ulla already mentioned. So it's a poetic sound piece called 63 Windows, which I have created from the project Memories. But before I will play it for you, I'm asking you to take a comfortable position. We have heard a lot of talking about this great project and the exhibition. So now it's time to take time for yourself and experience some art. I will turn off the camera from here, so you can just breathe in and breathe out. And try to sit as comfortably as you can on your chair. You can look out from the window of your room, or then you can choose to close your eyes. Just focus on your breathing for a moment. Feel the chair, feel the floor under your feet. Forget anything else. This is a moment for yourself. I have to remind you that with contemporary art, it's great because there are no right or wrong interpretations. You can just have this experience, the meeting between the artwork and you. You can just allow this moment for yourself and let the piece affect you in whatever ways. Allow the different sensibilities, the sensory perceptions, emotions, thoughts, memories. Here we go. This is for you, 63 windows.
She only saw what the window allowed. She pulled down the car window and took a deep breath. The smell. from the window on her right side. Close your eyes and picture what she was going to tell. The trip is a lie. They had not even left. This is how they traveled with their imagination. Through the windows. Observing the subtle changes, colors and moods.
Looking for shades and colors to appear. Gray and gloomy. The concrete blocks. The river dam and shores. The hydroelectric station.
Sometimes in the distance. Deep forests daydreaming. Painting the sky in warm shades of red and orange. Go over to the window. Go over to the window. Look outside the window. Outside the window, all mixed up. Figure it out.
Daydream anywhere, anytime by the window, on the windowsill.
Sun was beginning to set. Slowly fading away.
Hiding on the cellar windowsill. 2 windows on the wall did not allow too much light. Memory gets foggy.
Throw it out the window.
There is only one window with wooden shutters. The light enters the window. The room still in darkness. Dark windows and dark shutters closed during daytime. There were no windows in the shelter.
Window behind, so bright. Flooded with light. Mother's face dark.
Mother's face glanced through the window.
Glued to the window, her face, looking outside, watching the street from the window.
The street from the window for hours and hours.
The child stares out into the window, watching, listening to the calls. The window in wonder. The colors blurring, the sounds fading away, the window getting foggy from her breathing. The girl staring outside the window.
Quietly staring out the window. Just in front of the window, awakened suddenly by a beam of light piercing through the windows. An invitation to play.
While glancing through the window, she dreamed to reach the window to open it. Whether, when, and how long it can be opened. To look outside with the head sticking out?
The sun shines through the holes. The curtain starts floating outside the window as if trying to fly away.
The window hasn't been closed. The curtain took off like a balloon in the wind.
3 large windows from floor to ceiling let in the light and open the view to some.
Next to those windows, curtains are moving like water.
There are 4 large buildings that look alike but are still different.
The window, large and wide, was looking at the house.
Balcony window, to the inside of the building, like watching a movie.
Keep the window shades 3/4 down.
People, in the windows, not to be seen from the outside.
The lightning cutting through windows. The house dark and hostile.
The window shivering. Her sister looked out the other window, facing the road. It was getting darker when she arrived, her face frozen. It grew darker, the big picture window.
The eye passed and the winds resumed to watch the remainder at the picture window.
Out of their window. No curtains up for the windows.
The daydream stares out of the windows. Looks the others at the window.
She stares out of the window. Wants to touch but they cannot leave. As they lived on, the glass windowed their vision. Results posted on the windows. Pretty windows. Get up and go to the window. To the window.
Stand in line at the window.
Next to the window.
The window. Look out of the window and enter through. Disappear into the window. Into the imaginary above. On the left. There was a small window.
There was a window. No importance. Small and covered. No longer the moon lightening the room through the window. Throwing them out. The window.
Now our official opening ceremonies are ending. Thanks to everyone here at Werstas in our Kaleidoscope exhibition, and thanks all of you in the Zoom. If it's possible for you, I hope you can visit this exhibition, so you are really welcome to Werstas. And thank you.